So let's talk about this bonus tip. The bonus tip is just a dirty. Hey guys, this is Lovely, and today we're going to talk about 5 trust building exercises for couples. I'm always talking about ways for us to heal as individuals because I truly believe that in order for us to fully thrive in our healing journey, one of the things that we have to do is learn how to heal in the way that works best for us. That does not mean that we are doing this alone. Most people who heal in a healthy way have communities of different people who help them see the trials and tribulations in a different light. It helps them see the strengths that they have. It helps them feel more comfortable and build in resilience. And when that happens, you can fully embrace this healing journey and understand some of the reasons why you may have reacted in a particular way. Today, I want to talk about 5 trust building exercises for couples because I truly believe that once you heal, if you are interested in still being in relationships, we have to learn how to have better conversations, better communication skills. We have to learn how to have more sympathy and empathy, more patience and grace with each other. And so these type of skill sets really just help us understand ourselves and the people that we love. So I want us to imagine that we're sitting across from our partner, feeling like strangers after trust has been broken. Like you want to move forward, but how do you begin? And I am a perfect person for that because I've had that sitting across the table thinking to myself, what happens now? What happens next? Right. And I want us to remember that rebuilding trust after betrayal is one of the hardest things that a couple can handle, but it is possible. And today I'm going to share 5 exercises to help us reconnect, rebuild, and renew our relationships. Let me put the caveat. Both people have to be interested in rebuilding, renewing, and reconnecting. If only one person is interested in doing that, it will be very hard for you to see any kind of positive outcomes in this particular situation. So, did you know that research shows that trust is the number one factor in long-lasting relationships? Listen, you will have times in your life where you don't trust yourself. Having a partner or a person, your person, it doesn't have to be intimate. It could be platonic, it could be a best friend, it could be a confidant. Having somebody that you trust implicitly with your mind, body, and soul. And when I say body, I don't mean sexually. I mean making sure that you aren't harming yourself, telling you to take care of yourself, somebody who asks you about doctor's appointments, things like that. It can be such a beautiful reciprocal relationship. So I want us to remember that we are going through this journey together and you are not alone. So I want y'all to stay tuned for a bonus tip at the end of this video. I know you're like, oh, it's already long. And listen, relationships that you want to last, they're a little long-winded too. So let's get to it. The power of forgiveness. Let's talk about what happens when you are releasing pain and how you can make that work best for you. So I want us to imagine we are a couple and one of us has committed infidelity, right? One of us has betrayed us. And we are struggling with resentment. And I want us to remember that when that happens, every conversation can turn into a battlefield. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a bag of popcorn, it could be going to the store, it could be work, it could be a car, it could be hair, because everything's a trigger. But when you practice forgiveness exercises about how to share, the dynamic can change because okay, so you've decided that you're going to make this work. Once you've decided that you're going to make this work, you have to start rebuilding a foundation that looks very different than the foundation of that previous relationship. You're going to have to learn how to let go of some of the things that you guys did that wasn't working. And even if it was working, that those different triggers will cause you to have just a very bitter taste in your mouth with regard to this new relationship that you are trying to build together. I want us to remember that forgiveness is a process, it's not an event. It doesn't mean that forgiving is excusing the hurt, but you're choosing to free yourself of that pain that you're carrying so that you can allow newer, more healthy feelings and emotions to kind of step in. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to be triggered. That doesn't mean that we aren't going to have times where we need to like take a deep breath and remember that we've gone through a lot. We may hold trauma in our bodies. We may still have issues with being intimate. Maybe we're having issues with being able to have a full conversation. Maybe the communication is stilted because you're still trying to figure out if you can really trust this person. So I want you to really learn how to forgive not only yourself, but to forgive the spirit that you carry that relationship in. I know that people always say you have to forgive the other person. Forgiveness isn't for the other person. Forgiveness is for you so that you can figure out how you want to change, pivot, rebuild, and renew any relationships coming after that. So one of the exercises that you can do, it's a hard exercise too. It sounds like it would be easy, but it's a hard exercise. You want to write a forgiveness letter, right? Each partner will write a letter about their pain, not sending it, but to express and process emotion. We're not sending it to each other. We're trying to figure out how to really deal with that. And then after a few days, I want you to reread that letter and reflect. Am I ready to release any of this pain? What triggers are you getting from that letter? When you're reading that letter, what parts of your body are anxious? What parts of your body feel tingly? What parts of your body feel heavy? Are there any flutters in your heart that makes it feels like heart palpitations versus those butterflies? Is the panic? Or do you have any moments where you feel dark and doubtful still within that relationship, right? Because those are the areas that we're going to work on. Those are the areas that we are going to really reflect on and figure out how to make better moves so that we feel comfortable with the next step of this new relationship. I want you to ask yourself a few questions. How does forgiveness impact your healing journey? Right? Do you feel that forgiveness makes you feel like boo boo the fool? Because some of us have felt that way. Do you feel like forgiveness means that you are allowing a person to do that to you again? Are you the kind of person who feels like when you're working on forgiveness, you may take the smallest step forward, but you still are very cautious about what's happening? And the next step, the next question you can ask yourself is, what do I need to forgive myself for, right? Sometimes what happens is that we take the other person's actions as the as we take the other person's actions as a cross to bear for us, right? So they caused the issue. And now we are sitting around talking about, I wish I would. Why didn't I see? If only I had. Why didn't I know? Did I not pay attention enough? How could I not have known? Was that in your plans? Like, is that a part of your characteristics? Okay, all right. If no is the answer, we wouldn't have known that. No, we will not. But I want us to remember that forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. I'm going to say that all the time. Forgiveness is for you so that you can process what you've gone through, and then you can decide what kind of lessons you've learned from it. You can decide the way you want to heal, and you can decide how much and how fast you want to move within that space. That is a really good way to look at it. So now we're going to focus on building a foundation of trust. We're going to relearn communication with each other. Listen, you think that you're prepared to communicate with somebody after betrayal happens. No, you're not. A lot of things that you want to say require a fireman to come in and hose both of y'all down, is what I'm saying, right? So I just want us to remember that sometimes it can get real nasty before it gets better. And that's why we're learning how to communicate with each other in a different way, because the way that we formally communicated with each other just isn't working the way we need it to. So imagine that a couple is trying to build retrust, right? But every conversation ends in frustration because they aren't truly listening to each other. They aren't listening to comprehend, they're listening to respond. Then they try to spin it and go to, like, they go to therapy and they learn how to do active listening exercises for the first time. And each person says, "Oh, I didn't know that's what you were saying." That's why we talk about healing. That's why we talk about relearning and learning how to communicate with each other based off of the languages that we speak. Everybody always talks about the five love languages, which are wonderful. However, I want us to really think about the language that our partner speaks that is different than the language that we speak and how we interpret those. Because a lot of the times, how we interpret the other person's words are based off of either negative talk that we have in our head, the way we talk to ourselves in our subconscious, the tone in which we perceive the person talking. A lot of the times it's not actually what they're saying. They could be very like nonchalant, but if you feel like what they're saying is condescending, that's the tone in which you're going to hear it. Now, sometimes they are being condescending. And at that time, I just want you to remember that you are allowed to get up and walk out that space if you are safe, right? I want us to always think about ways to be safe. So, why open communication matters, right? Trust thrives on honesty, transparency, and vulnerability. I want us to think about that, right? How honest can you be in your relationship when you're talking? How transparent can you be in that relationship when you are talking? How vulnerable can you be in that relationship when you are talking? Okay, so let's talk about nonverbal cues. How honest can you be with your body and your spirit in that relationship? Well, what about transparency or vulnerability? Because a lot of the conversations that we have as couples are really done without words. There's nonverbal. It's just the way your face looks, maybe the way your body is positioned, maybe the songs that you're listening to. It could be just like the aura, your aura, and how you are moving around in the spaces that you are traveling in. So I want us to try this exercise. I want us to try active listening. Ugh, it can be very difficult, but I know that you can do it. I feel like you are prepared to move forward if you're listening to this video. So, like, let's really work on this. I want us to set a timer for 3 minutes. One of the partners speaks and the other listens with no interruptions. I need you to learn how to school your face. Hey, fix some eyebrows. Okay? That's what I want to do. The listener then repeats back what they heard, ensuring that they truly understood. Then I want us to swap roles and do that. I want us to really get in tune with listening to our partners talk and then repeating back what they said. So, what I heard you say was A, B, C, D, verbatim, not you translating the conversation, not how you interpret it. What I heard you say was, and go and you start from there. Because once a person feels like you've heard them, a lot of the time their defenses kind of come down a little bit because they're like, okay, so you heard what I said. Next step is comprehending, but like, let's just really work on being able to hear what a person said, to comprehend for the most part, and to be able to repeat back to the person. That's what we're working on right now. And then we want to swamp roles again. Let's just, every person gets 3 minutes, but it could be 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And that could be a boundary that you guys have. If you need to discuss something, active listening can really help you out. So for 3 minutes, you get to talk and say what you have to say. I want us to remember that we still need to be non-judgmental if possible, and we need to be respectful of each other's emotions and feelings, each person's desires and wants. We're still trying to make sure that we are being courteous and treating each other with patience and grace and as humans, because that makes such a big difference. And then I want us to remember that we, if we're working on this relationship, are responsible for creating emotional safety, right? That's you, it's a must in order to rebuild trust. Like, there is no option. If there's no emotional safety there, there will be no honesty, there will be no transparency, and there will be no vulnerability, which is going to hinder you guys really working on your relationship and building that relationship up into what you want it to be. And then I want us to really think about what it looks like to repair broken promises. This is a hard one because once a person doesn't trust you with their mind, body, and spirit, you have to literally rekindle trust with each one of those sections, right? So we want to learn that actions speak louder than words, and we are not love bombing somebody. We aren't apologizing profusely, flowers for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden we don't do that anymore. That's abusive, okay? Because when a person is learning how to process their emotions, when a person is learning to trust you again, most of us do it organically. It cannot be forced. Forced trust is not trust. Forced forced relationships don't work out usually. Now, I know we could be culturally blind with some of the comments that I make, but I want us to remember that we still have the autonomy over our spirits, our minds, our bodies, and our communication styles, and learning how to relate to other people can be hard all by itself. But if a person's actions don't look pure and intentional, it can become big red flags. So I want us to think about a time when someone broke a promise, and how do we feel? How do we feel about that? Now imagine your partner feeling that same disappointment. How do you rebuild from there? What does rebuilding look like when you look into the eyes of the person that you betrayed? How do you repair that? I want us to do two things. We want to understand the impact of a broken promise, right? So picture um a glass, like a picture of just a nice wine glass. And every time you broke a promise, somebody chipped away at that glass, right? Now I want you to try to put your hand into that glass without being cut. Think about that, right? And then I want us to remember that every broken promise chips away at trust. So just picture your relationship is that big glass. And every time you break a promise, the edge of the glass chips away. And when you go to reach your hand in there to get out whatever it is, your money, some penny candy, you cut yourself, right? And eventually you're going to stop wanting to put your hand inside of that glass. You're not going to want to do that. I want us to make small, consistent actions because it's the small wins that help you rebuild trust the best. It's the small wins that we celebrate that help us understand and to reconnect a lot of those wires that were disconnected through such a challenging and horrific time for so many people. And it helps build credibility because when you're doing these super big things, yes, it can be nice, but if you're missing the details within the actions that you are choosing to take, it can really get lost. So one of the exercises that we can do is do a trust jar. So you can take a mason jar and some small post-it notes, just regular old post-it notes. And every time a promise is kept, you write it down and place it in the jar. Over time, you'll be able to like visualize the proof of consistency and commitment. And it's really small things. Babe, can you make sure you bring in the eggs? Oh yeah, I'm gonna take out the trash today. I'll call you when I get off of work, right? Check. All right, that was a call. Okay, that's cool. Hey babe, I have to work late, but I want to be transparent. These are the people that I'm going to be working with. This is what I'm going to have to do. Check mark. Okay. Hey babe, I think I'm gonna take a nap or I'm gonna go hang out with my friends. We're gonna go play basketball. This is the address that we're gonna be at. You want to check my location? I'm very comfortable with that. Small, consistent actions that can help you rebuild credibility is such a way to show proof of consistency and commitment to that relationship. And I want us to remember that we are allowed to set boundaries. You have to find boundaries that work for you guys within your new relationship. It's so important, right? It's so necessary. It is absolutely one of those asterisk moments, right? Because you are learning that you have to protect your peace and you want to protect this relationship, and you're trying to work on ways to prevent future breaches from happening within your relationship. And a lot of us don't think about it like that because we look at boundaries as like nooses around our necks. But it helps you prioritize the requirements and preferences that you have within your relationship. And it tells somebody, if you void any of these boundaries or preferences, we really have to have a conversation. And it may be that if this boundary is too much for you, maybe we can't continue with this relationship, because trust isn't perfect at all, but being consistent, being accountable, and understanding that your actions do matter is such a huge way to think about relationships. Next, I want us to really focus on creating safe spaces for each other. Listen, I don't have a magic ball. But if I did, safe spaces would be one of the things that I would absolutely gobs, and troubles, right? I would definitely figure out ways to rebuild emotional security within a relationship being in safe spaces. And a lot of times, safe spaces have so much to do with vulnerability and transparency and honesty. And if you can't do that, that is going to be really hard to have those conversations, because within safe spaces, people still get checked. Within safe spaces, you still have to answer the questions. Within safe spaces, you still are not allowed to run amok. Like, it's still one of those things that we have to participate and be very active in. So when some people go through this type of scenario within their relationship, they can have a really hard time kind of understanding the cognitive dissonance of loving your partner, but not feeling safe with them. And that can be just a horrible way to feel, because you are loving someone who simultaneously has hurt you so bad, and you're trying to reconcile what that looks like and rebuild a relationship that allows you to be vulnerable with somebody who has hurt you. And if you've ever felt that way, you know that rebuilding trust, it starts with like finding pockets of safe spaces for you guys to have conversations without other people's thoughts, feelings, wants, and desires attached to them. And it also starts with open communication and active communication. It also means that we're not blaming each other. We're trying not to be defensive. We're learning how to be more honest. We're learning how to be kind. We're learning how to be caring. That can be so hard to do when your emotions are just attached to what's going on. But one of the things that we can do within our relationships is to check in. Ooh, we can say, all right, on Fridays, we're going to do a check in. On Wednesdays, we're going to do a check in. You have to remember, some of these check ins will be emotional. So if you have to go to work the next day, you could be up late and having conversations. So try to schedule your check-ins around evenings or days when you both will have time to think and really renew comfort in each other and figure out how to be better spouses to each other. I want you to ask yourself or ask your partner, how are you feeling? What do you need from me today? That can be really big. I think that when we are in relationships, sometimes we forget that we aren't everything to our partners. There's still things that they're going to need. I know. You is the bestest thing that they ever received. And you are one bad mother, shut your mouth. But they might still need a little bit more from you that day. Maybe a extra hug. Maybe they need a little more space. Maybe they want to sit down and eat with you. Maybe they need movie time. Maybe they need to have a really deep conversation, right? But I want us to avoid trying to fix it. I felt my breath leave up out. My heart started palpitating because you don't want me to fix it. You don't want me to fix it. Not a little bit. Okay. All right. But What we're doing is that we're just listening and holding space. We're letting them know that in this space, we listen and we don't judge. Every relationship needs support. And maybe having conversations where you don't problem solve causes you to spiral out of control. That's when we're getting coaches, therapists, counselors. We're connecting with safer people to have conversation with. Maybe you can join a couples group. Maybe you have an online community where you can ask deeper questions to help you kind of navigate deeper wounds, to help you figure out ways to maneuver through this relationship and this newfound respect that you're trying to build for each other. I want us to remember that emotional safety is the foundation for rebuilding intimacy and trust in every relationship. When people don't feel safe with you, they don't want to build with you. And when people don't want to build with you, they usually don't want to be intimate with you because there's a big difference between intimacy and sex. Such a huge difference. And intimacy and trust is over here. Sex and trust over here. But it is not always the same thing. And remember, even in a platonic relationship, you can have such a deep, intimate relationship with them. And when trust is broken, it can feel like it is absolutely a marriage that's falling apart. So, what do we do from here? I want us to create new positive memories with each other. Listen, if you are going to create core memories for this new relationship, they have to be what you guys see as just some of the best times in your life. And it doesn't always mean that you are celebrating or on vacation or on Instagram looking like the couple's goals, right? What it means is that you guys were sitting on the porch having a pizza and nobody cried that night. Maybe it's that you guys were talking about what you went through and you discovered something new about each other. Maybe it was that you guys were in therapy and nobody got blamed for something. It was more of an understanding and you cooperated to figure out how to get to a new answer, a more cohesive understanding of what you guys are trying to build. So after trust is broken, many couples only focus on fixing the past. Remember, we can't fix the past, right? We just can't go back. But I want us to remember that if we're creating a new joyful experience together, it's just as important to work on these new communication skills, these new vulnerability skills, these new transparency skills, and also these new honesty skills that we're working on. I want us to shift from repair mode to rebuild mode, right? We are not repairing anything anymore. It's so broken that it is literally just dust. How are we going to rebuild from dust? What does that look like? Because when you can rebuild from nothing, now you get to make this relationship look the way you want to. And if something fails within that rebuild, you can either attack that and try to fix that, or you can say, hey, maybe we just can't make this work. And it's okay for it to not work. If you try to make it work and it doesn't work, you guys still try to make it work. You are still allowed to celebrate the moments that you had together and move forward. Maybe you guys can reconcile the friendship that you have. And if you don't have a friendship, this gives you a pause to really think about like, why did I stay in this relationship as long as I did? So one of the exercises that we can do is a new memory exercise. We're going to take turns planning weekly. I don't want to say dates because I don't even want it to just be dates, but weekly activities together. Maybe we're doing a handwritten note. Maybe we're doing a thankful small gift. Maybe we are going out on a date. Maybe we're just bringing the food that we heard our partner mention earlier throughout the week and on Friday with like their favorite drink. And we are just going to sit down and have just a good conversation. Maybe we're playing Uno and I'm whipping your behind in Uno and you just not going to win. That's what's happening. The goal is to create new memories of joy so you can reinforce trust. And we're celebrating the small wins because if we can have a Friday night after going through such a horrible situation within our relationship, and promising to work on this relationship and going to therapy separately and then going to therapy together and really just having a moment where you get to sit down and nobody has animosity at that moment, where you are genuinely open to the possibility of newness. How beautiful can that be, right? You're acknowledging progress without having to announce it all over the place, because healing happens in small moments. It's not just about like the big things, it's about those small daily actions that make us just, okay, okay. I see why we're working on this. I see why we're working on this. So let's talk about this bonus tip. The bonus tip is a 30-day trust rebuild challenge. What can we do about that, right? We want to commit to 1 month of daily trust building actions. Maybe we can express gratitude daily. Maybe we can set aside 10 minutes of undistracted connection with each other, just sitting down and talking to each other in a gentle way. Maybe you can sit together with your legs crossed, if you can still do that. Hold each other's hands and look each other in the eyes. That is just such a huge spirit connector, a soul connector. It allows you to really feel the emotion of the other person, maybe sometimes absorb the other person's emotions to figure out what you need to do or what you're doing, right? And then you can share something with each other, vulnerable about what happened within your week, because you have to take rebuilding trust seriously. This whole like, oh, I'm gonna just show him or her real quick what's gonna happen. Babes, you gonna be sitting outside with some bags and be like, hey, I got a new apartment. I don't think this is gonna work out, right? Because we are talking about a fresh start. We aren't talking about this same relationship. We're talking about having a different way of communicating with each other, having a different way of being honest with each other, having a different way of being transparent with each other, and having a different way of being vulnerable with each other. And that's going to take time. None of this is overnight, right? Healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. And nobody's ever healed, right? There are going to be times when you're triggered and you're going to have to go back into yourself, or maybe rewatch some of these videos to show yourself self-compassion, really take a little deep dive into negative self-talk, just places where it can help you figure out where you want to be and what your healing looks like. So I just want us to be patient with ourselves. I want us to love on ourselves. I want us to have intentionality behind the efforts that we are putting in this relationship, and to know that we can rebuild a lost relationship when both people want to rebuild it and when it's supposed to work. Sometimes we try to rebuild things that are just the puzzle pieces aren't fitting. We're trying to cut off pieces to make it work. And that's not, that's just not what we're doing. So tell me, which exercise are you going to try first? Just drop it in the comment section. I'm not a judger, okay? I'm on the internet talking about infidelity. I don't have a place to judge, right? Because I've gone through these things. I try not to talk from a place that I don't understand fully, because I understand that authentic conversations don't always happen. And I am so interested in helping us heal through conversations. So that's why I do this. It is literally a passion for me to do it. So please like and subscribe for more relationship and healing tips. I'm always dropping a new video. Sometimes it's twice a week, sometimes it's 5 times a week. I'm just trying to get more information out there because I really want us to find a place where we can heal and understand each other. And then follow me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Substack, all the places under lovelyesteem.com. LOVELIESTEEM. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this video. And I hope you and your partner have such a wonderful day and that you are able to be vulnerable, honest, and transparent with each other in so many ways. Good luck on your new relationship. Bye, guys.